All right. Dun dun dun. Back like never before. Hi there, Mother Goose Tribe. Sunny Southwest Florida. My name is Dr. Dane Cunningham. I want to welcome you to tonight's webinar on torticollis and cranial shape. First and foremost, we are your friendly neighborhood pediatric chiropractor, Mother Goose Chiropractic in Bonita Springs, Florida. We are serving all of Southwest Florida and helping raise the healthiest children in the state. That's what we do. So tonight, continuing our theme this June, Happy Babies Month. We actually originally had this webinar scheduled a little earlier this week, and due to some technical difficulties, we had to reschedule it. So thank you for bearing with us. Those of you that know and love us know that I'm not the tech savvy guy. That's normally Dr. Carrie, my wife and amazing partner, but we got things all sewn up and ready to go. So if you are on this webinar, it is very likely that someone maybe recommended it to you, or you saw something online, you saw a success story, and someone said, hey, you know what? There are these chiropractors that see kids, and torticollis, cranial issues, cranial malformations, holy cow, cranial shape, they can help with that. So mom and dad, if that's you, if you have a child that's struggling with either one of those things, there's a couple things I want to do tonight. First of all, I want to get you a little bit of hope back and let you know that you have options, okay? You have options. I'm going to take a very complicated topic that can be really scary and confusing and distill it down so that it's easy to understand, simplify the information, and more importantly, I want to address commonly asked questions surrounding both torticollis, cranial shape, and cranial issues in infants. And then going to give you kind of a crash course in pediatric chiropractic. I want to be able to answer for you the question, well, why would a baby with these types of issues need to see a chiropractor, much less a pediatric specialist? So that's the goal for this evening, torticollis and cranial shape. Down there you will see a little emblem, the National Family Wellness Alliance. That is our charity partner. They're a nonprofit. So people from all over the country view our webinars. That's why I wanted to say, Mother Goose Chiropractic, Bonita Springs, Florida, because that's where we are and that's where I'm delivering this webinar. That's where we serve. But the National Family Wellness Alliance really empowers us to get this information out, not just to our community, but really to the entire nation, the entire United States of America. So if you're watching this, if you were tagged in this, or it was sent to you, or you were recommended to us, and you're not in Florida, that's okay. Please shoot us a DM, and we can try and find a qualified pediatric chiropractor in your area to get your child checked and get you the answers that you need, all right? So moving right along, let's see if I can get this thing to work tonight. Oh, boy. Oh, we do the old switcheroo. Okay. Now, I'm going to be moving this window around so you guys can read the text. We'll just leave it over here. So torticollis and cranial shape. Torticollis and cranial shape. First off, let's define our terms. Torticollis. What is torticollis? Okay, so the baby's neck was really stiff, and they had to go to the PT, and they had to stretch it out and get the muscle to relax. Okay, that's usually what you hear. Torticollis is prolonged spasm from one of two muscles in the upper neck, the upper traps, and then a muscle called the SCM. Okay, there is a nerve, a cranial nerve. So all that means is you've got the skull, the cranial vault. It's a nerve outside of the brain and the spinal cord that goes down, exits the cranial vault, and goes through those muscles in the upper neck. Now, if that nerve is irritated, distorted, or damaged, we're going to talk about how that happens. If there's any irritation to that nerve tells that muscle what to do. So if it's irritated, it spasms, it goes into defensive mode, and little baby has that muscle that's locked up, and they're stuck to one side. Now, obviously, we know that's a problem, mom and dad, because if you're on with us tonight, you're listening to this information, you understand how difficult that can be. Baby can't turn head side to side. They're irritable, they're in spasm, they're crying, they're fussy. It's hard to get them to settle down. When they do pass out, it's only just in the exact same position. They don't want to rotate to that other side. Car rides, getting them to have the visual stimuli and the noise of a car ride, but being locked up and only able to look one way. Car rides can be a nightmare. As well as feeding. Mom, if they don't want to rotate to one side, how are they going to latch to both sides? Or, if you're doing formula, well, you get used to just feeding them in that same position over and over and over again. That can cause problems. And guys, if you take one thing away from the webinar tonight, both cranial shape and torticollis you might just be thinking of those in terms of cosmetics, like, oh, gee, I don't want my child to have this, to look different. If you take away one thing tonight, please understand that why we address the delicate spine, brain, and nervous system in infants, the reason we are pediatric chiropractors is because things like these are symptoms, they're signs, they're body signals. It's a warning that there are neurological consequences. So further down the road, it's not just, oh yeah, they had spasm back when they were a baby, or they got a little bit of an odd bump back here. There are neurological consequences, whether that is, colic, reflux, constipation, baby's fussy, developmental and speech delays later on. Nerve irritation has consequences, and that's why we want to address and remove that issue and get the body healing. Now, really, really important to understand too, where do these things come from? Well, it's not just bad luck. They don't just drop out of the sky, right? In our practice, what we see in children with these types of issues, especially torticollis, is that type of a muscle spasm is usually a reaction to one of two things. And the first is the reason we see and take care of so many expectant mamas. We love empowering women and couples through an awesome rock star pregnancy to set them up for a really good labor and delivery. And that comes down to often addressing pelvic alignment in moms. So the pelvis goes through major changes during pregnancy, right? And biomechanically, we want to make sure that it is moving and grooving the way that it's supposed to. The simple reason for that is if the pelvis is shifted, stuck, not moving properly, it can put pressure on the uterus, which is that balloon that holds the baby that sits in the pelvis. And if you have torsion on the uterus or tension on the uterus, we call that interuterine constraint. Just think of that as it's just there's not enough space in mama's belly for baby to move and groove and move properly and go in the position they're supposed to go into. So sometimes we find that the deck is a little bit stacked because it was a challenged pregnancy. And so baby just didn't have enough room to move around. And so that was kind of their pattern before they were even born. So sometimes we see it's due to interuterine constraint, which really with a healthy pregnancy, with a pregnancy chiropractor like us, we can usually address those issues and make sure that they never cause a problem. Second reason, and the reason that every child, whether you had a birth with lots of interventions, it had to be induced, or had to have Pitocin, or had to have some sort of emergency measures like vacuum extraction or forceps, or cesarean, maybe there was a cord wrap, whatever it is, it's always important to have a baby's delicate neck, spine, and nervous system checked after birth, no matter what the circumstance, just to make sure that they don't have any irritation in those delicate nerves coming off of the neck and the cervical spine. That is really the heart of what we do here at Mother Goose Chiropractic, why we see so many babies and infants. So again, if you have a big, traumatic, difficult birth where they get lifted, twisted, pulled, as baby comes out into the world, again, the body is going to say, what just happened? Oh my gosh, protect. And then boom, you have muscle spasm. So sometimes it's a response to birth trauma in babies. And that's why we make sure we get them checked after birth. It's one of the most important visits you could ever have. And if you know us at Mother Goose, my son Ananias, our little mascot who's with us every Friday morning, I got him checked when he was about 47 minutes old. And that is why, him and the other kiddos we take care of, again, you live your life through your nervous system. You don't want any stress and irritation in that system. It can spill over. That being said, so what are the options? Well, we work with a lot of awesome OBs. We work with a lot of awesome pediatricians. The standard of care in that world, which is, it is what it is. It's great. Cranial helmets. I have my notes down here. I want to make sure I pronounce this right. A DOC band is a dynamic orthotic cranioplasty. Dynamic orthotic cranioplasty. So that means it's an orthotic. It's a piece of equipment that is designed to force the cranial bones back into position. So let's understand, before we talk about abnormal and where things have gone off the rails, let's understand normal. And if you understand the process and how the body is supposed to work, it's pretty amazing. It's a perfect system. Birth, labor, and delivery. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. So the way that amazing intelligent system is designed is, so the cranial bones on a baby, okay, they're not fully ossified. They're not fully bone. There is cartilage and transitions between them, so that when baby's head goes through the vaginal canal, the cranial bones can actually overlap and contract so the baby can get through the canal. When they pop out, boom, those cranial bones are supposed to spring back into place. So as baby their cranial bones go through the vaginal canal, it's actually building up pressure. And when their head crowns and comes out, that pressure allows everything to rebound back, and all the cranial bones should go back into a normal, healthy alignment, ideally. That's the goal. Now, especially if you've had some sort of intervention, like a cesarean, where baby missed that developmental milestone, that sometimes, or if you had an active labor where baby got stuck, didn't progress, and was in the canal, and they had to forcibly take them out, but they never built up enough pressure for those bones to rebound, you can have malformations like you see babies that have that little football shape for a little bit, the first weeks of life. That's what we're talking about here. Or here's the other thing, mom and dad. If baby doesn't like to rotate or latch and they have a spasm, here's the problem too. Gravity. You're putting their head is putting their weight when they lay down, when they're in the car seat, on the same spot 24/7. And then that can affect too, because again, the cranial bones are moldable and pliable. If I put all the force in the same spot over time, sometimes moms just come in and they say, hey, you know what? They have this flat spot. What's going on with that? I want to make sure that there's no issue there. And that makes sense too. So those cranial helmets are, supposed to be worn about, 23 hours a day to try and, again, manipulate and force those cranial bones to go back to where they should be. So, it is what it is. It can certainly help. But here's the thing, mom and dad. You have to wait. Usually what you're told in that world is, well, let's wait and see. Wait and see. If I'm a new parent and my child is struggling and they're uncomfortable and they can only go to one side or they have some sort of malformation and I'm concerned and I'm worried, I don't want to wait 6 weeks. And that really limits you and your options. And you're told, okay, let's do tummy time, try and put them on their back, just encourage them to roll from side to side. And let's see if it magically goes away. Let's see if hopefully they can grow out of it. Well, that's all well and good, and of course, those providers are trying to be helpful. But at the end of the day, that's giving you very limited options, and that can be incredibly frustrating to just kind of do the wait and see. So, what I want to say to you is that pediatric chiropractors like us that specialize in cranial work, you don't have to wait. I checked my son when he was about an hour old. We see 2-day-olds, we see 2-month-olds, and everyone in between. Pediatric chiropractic is safe, gentle, and effective. And you don't have to wait a month and a half before we can intervene and start to shift and change things and improve and remove the stress and address any issues so that we can knock these things out before they become more of a serious problem further on down the line. So there's really no reason you need to wait. That being said, let me talk to you guys about pediatric side of cranial work. So we focus on the cranium in a baby, and we focus also on the delicate spine and nervous system. Usually when babies come to us, there's been some kind of birth trauma or cranial malformation or torticollis or colic or reflux or ear infections or whatever the symptom is, it's usually symptomatic of an underlying cause. And in this case, I talked about the spinal accessory nerve. Well, really just nerve irritation in general. When this system is not working properly, it stresses and irritates the nerves. The brain goes into stress mode, that gets locked in, and then all of a sudden, baby isn't eating, isn't sleeping, isn't pooping. You pick the challenge. Those are all manifestations of, again, a nervous system under stress. Because if the body's functioning right, if the brain and the nerve system are communicating with all those systems, baby should be growing and developing and thriving. They shouldn't have challenges like this. So, mom and dad, I hate to break it to you, but if you're being told that's normal, they'll grow out of it, you're being lied to. That catchphrase is all too common in pediatric healthcare today. Oh, it's normal, they'll grow out of it. Well, they don't grow out of it. The symptoms of the nerve irritation will change. The manifestation will change. And so if we wait and see, you might get a toddler with moods and meltdowns, trouble with emotional regulation, chronic congestion, because now you've malformed the cranium and all of the soft palate structures, drainage, all that ENT system is now developing askew. Right? So nerve irritation has consequences. It doesn't go away. It's not normal. The manifestations will change. So that's why we love checking babies and infants. We have an awesome window of time where, again, we can improve and shift those health outcomes and get a baby growing and developing and healing again. That's what we do. That is pediatric chiropractic in a nutshell. Babies that come to us that are stressed or tense, adjustments are safe, gentle, and effective. And honestly, mom and dad, I want you to take those Snap, Crackle, Pop compilations you see on YouTube, and I want you to put them in a lead casket, and we're going to drop them in the ocean. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with pediatric chiropractic care. When a child comes to us and their nerve system is irritated and they're not healing and they're not functioning properly, what we do is we gently wait. We figure out where the stress and tension is. We hold, we wait, and a baby will melt and release just like a stick of butter. And the most common reaction to an adjustment in an infant is going from to and you can just see the brain and nervous system relax when we release the tension. And it allows them to shift back to healing, to growth, to eating and sleeping and pooping, which is all your child should be doing. Because let's be honest, mom and dad, we want you to enjoy this time as a parent. We don't want you to be stressed and Googling around frantic saying, oh my gosh, this isn't going away. What do? I have to wait and wait for the next well baby checkup and hope that something changes. We want to empower you, not just with knowledge, but the ability to take action. And we can help you. That's why we're here. That's why I'm on this webinar tonight instead of home with my son, because I don't want parents like you to be struggling. I want you to love this time with your children. Carrie and I, the last year and a half of our lives have been absolutely incredible. And all the parents and children we've been taking care of over the years, we loved and appreciated, but man, it has so much more resonance now. And I could not imagine what it would have been like if Ananias were fussy, colicky, upset, or had challenges like this. The only time he was fussy or cried was when he was tired or hungry. And that's how it should be. You should be loving this. This is the best time of your life. That's what we're all about. Now, when it comes to cranial work, like I said, let me grab, I had a little assistant I was going to use earlier today. Give me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to see if I can grab that. I'm going to pause this real quick, okay? All right, we're back. I had to run into the room and grab my assistant Flounder here. So we're going to move right along. And I'm going to come back to dural tension, but what I want to do is talk to you about cranial work, about what we actually do in babies that have plagiocephaly, cranial misalignments, flat spots, asymmetries. And again, mom and dad, you think that's just cosmetic. You're worried about, oh my gosh, are their facial features going to be off? Are they going to be outcast? Again, the cranium houses the brain, and the brain is the most important part of the nervous system. It continues as the spinal cord, and if you distort or damage that system, it's not just cosmetic. It can have far-reaching implications for the functioning of the body. So here is Flounder, my assistant. Now what you're going to notice, face, here's the side of Flounder's skull. Now it's funny, whoever made this, Disney made this doll, see this line here down the stitching? That's very similar to what the cranial bones in an infant are like. Where two cranial bones meet up, we call that a suture. So for example, let's say that we had a malformation in this suture here, and those cranial bones were overlapped. They had not fully separated or developed normally after a difficult birth or what have you. So let's say that the sutures overlapped, and there's an issue over here. Okay, well obviously after doing a full assessment and exam and making recommendations, this is what an adjustment is like, okay? There's no snap, twist, and pop. Again, remember, that's all ridiculous. That has nothing to do with what we do in infants, toddlers, and children. What we would do is you just simply come along, and we identify the area of stress and tension or malformation, and we just gently, a little bit of manual therapy to gently encourage that suture to open and release, okay? And it's not a magic one-time, one-size-fits-all. Just like any time when you have a bad pattern that you have to retrain to a good one, it takes frequency and repetition. The adjustments are comfortable. Infants, like I said, 2-day-olds, oftentimes babies will sleep through the adjustment. If not, if they're stressed, if they're tight and they're tense, it's this amazing release, relax. It is an absolute relief, not just to the baby. I see mom and dad go, oh, and as soon as that resonates and they see that, okay, something changed, my child seems to be okay now. They fill their diaper, they're hungry, they want to eat, whatever it is, we shift them back to growth and development. But a nice, light cranial work to open up those sutures, simple, gentle, easy, and effective. And another reason the health of the cranial vault is so important, all right, bye, Flounder. Let me jump back to dural tension really quickly. Something really, really important to understand, guys. Again, pediatric chiropractic, growing and developing brains, really, really important. The cranial vault houses the skull, and it houses the brain and the spinal cord, as I should say. The brain and the spinal cord have tiny ligaments that hold and suspend the brain and the cord. Okay, so just think about it this way. If you put stress, tension, or torsion anywhere in that system, you increase the tension on the cord and the nerves. So when baby, fussy, won't sleep, screaming, restless, uncomfortable, think of it this way. Neurologically, it's like they're a guitar string that has been too tight, because mechanically that stress is putting stress on the cord and the nerves. It's like a baby, babies that come to us that are like that. It's like, again, it's literally like a guitar string that's too tight. There's pathological tension on the cord and the dura that supports the spinal cord. So when we start to relax and release and shift and improve and remove the issue, that has amazing global consequences for how the brain's able to process, heal, grow, and develop. So dural tension, you don't want any issue there. Also with things like plagiocephaly, flat spots in the cranium. The cranial vault houses, it's called cerebrospinal fluid. It's the fluid that the brain and the spinal cord sit in. And the cranium has a pulse to it, which is really, really cool. If your baby's a couple weeks old or a couple months old, and you look at the top of the skull, you're going to see a little spot where they have a little gap and where those cranial bones have not fully ossified. And if you watch that spot, you'll see that it has a pulse to it. That's not from their heartbeat. That's actually the pulse of that cerebrospinal fluid, because the cranium pumps and makes sure that that spinal fluid bathes the brain and bathes the spinal cord all throughout the body. It's how the body gets oxygen, glucose, energy, fluid, and nutrients to the cord. So again, when I said the cranial issues are not just cosmetic, they can have far-reaching implications for the health of the nerve system, the spine, and the brain. Very, very important. So dural tension, a stressed baby, again, it's not just the muscles, nerves, nerve irritation. That's what we're addressing with pediatric chiropractic. Safe, gently, and effectively. So that being said, Mom and Dad, I really appreciate you taking this time out to learn a little bit more about a complex issue. I hope I answered some of your most common questions and concerns. If you have further concerns, we would be honored to connect with you, get to know you, and let me just tell you a little bit about what the process in our office looks like. Okay, so you followed your gut to get here because you knew something's not right with your child, and you probably don't want to do the wait and see and hope that it goes away. You want to take action because that little bundle of joy is the most important thing in your world. I get that. And that's why we exist at Mother Goose Chiropractic, is to help parents just like you. So trust yourself. And if you wanted to take the next step and get your child checked, this is what that would look like in our office. So we are a kid-friendly office. We take care of lots of babies, toddlers, and children. First visit, we sit down. I want to understand your story. You sit down with Dr. Carey or myself. You tell us what's going on. We would take a health history. And then the second thing we would do is we would do a quick physical exam just to assess for any areas of stress and tension. We look specifically at the cranial bones, the cervical spine. We would check the entire spine and also the baby's pelvis just to look to see for any areas where the nerve system might be stressed or irritated. And then the third thing we would do, very important, really, really cool, that I did not mention, we use some incredible technology in our office. And if you look down here, let me zoom in on that. We do some really impressive neurological scans. And we would scan and check and assess your infant, toddler, or child. Now, those scans we measure temperature and electrical activity. There's no ionizing radiation. There's no needles, no pain. Again, if an infant goes up on mom's shoulder, we can scan them and they'll sleep through the process. So it's safe and easy. But by measuring temperature and electrical activity, we can get a really good read on, again, where the nervous system is stressed and stuck and where we would need to go to gently adjust, unlock, and shift them back to growth and healing. That is what an assessment looks like in our office. The most important part of that is getting to know you, understanding what's going on, and then charting a course for a better way back to health for your child. That is what we do here at Mother Goose Chiropractic. One of our hashtags is a hope dealer, because that's what we do. We want to get you some hope back and help your child. So I hope you found this information helpful. Again, our charity partner down here, the National Family Wellness Alliance. If this has been shared with you and you're not in Florida and in the Gulf Coast, Bonita Springs, Naples, or Estero, that's totally fine. Please connect with us. Follow us on Facebook. Shoot us a DM anyway. This is why we exist. This is why I get out of bed in the morning, guys. We will find you a provider in your area if you get us a zip code, and we can get help for your child, again, through our charity partner, the National Family Wellness Alliance. So thanks so much, Mom and Dad. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Let us know if you have any further questions or we can help in any way. This is Dr. Dane Cunningham for Mother Goose Chiropractic in sunny Southwest Florida, Bonita Springs, signing off. We love and appreciate you. And we'll see you next time as our Happy Babies Month continues.